Can you guys do me a favor and just raise your hand if you've ever heard someone say something like this before? Higher education isn't about preparing students for their first job. It's about preparing them for their 5th job or their 17th job. We are about lifelong learning, learning how to learn for a lifetime. Thank you. This reasoning drives me just a little bit bananas because it just doesn't jive with what we're hearing from students themselves. At Strada, we've been interviewing 350 Americans every single day for the last 2 years with Gallup, over 250,000 people aged 18 to 65. And what they tell us over and over and over again is that the reason why they enroll in post-secondary education is for job and career outcomes. The reason why they pursue higher education is to get a better job. Double more than any other motivation out there, this is the reason why they are coming to college. And are we delivering? The answer is no. Only 36% of our currently enrolled students feel prepared for the workforce. Only 40% of our liberal arts majors believe that their major will lead to a good job. And it turns out these students are onto something. Because in other research that we're doing with Burning Glass data, we are looking at underemployment. And you often hear these stories of newly minted graduates going off and not finding their footing at first and having to maybe serve as baristas at Starbucks or sell clothes at the Gap. And we tend to think, that's okay, that's a small minority of students who are impacted, they'll find their footing soon. Underemployment is a short-term problem. The problem with this line of thinking is that from our research, we've actually understood now that with the exception of a few disciplines like communications or most STEM disciplines like computer science and engineering, if you start off underemployed in that first job, you have a high likelihood of remaining underemployed 5 years out and 10 years out. So underemployment is not a short-term problem. The odds are actually even worse for women. More of them start off underemployed, no matter their discipline. So it's a long-term problem with long-term financial implications. So it turns out we do have to think critically about that first job. We have to focus on that critical handoff between education and employment. As we take in these sorts of data points and this kind of information, we then have to reconcile this information with the flood of other information that we're receiving. We know that we have a growing contingent workforce. Part-time employment is higher than at any point since 1980. We have a growing number of citizens who are stitching together part-time jobs to make ends meet. And then you match that with the exponential changes in technology that we're seeing. We are in a world of exponential futures. Moore's law is doubling the rate of computing power every 2 years, and we are really starting to feel the velocity of that technological advancement. We see advancements in artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning, automation. There are projections now that potentially 47% of the US workforce is at risk of computerization. Nearly half of the activities that are associated with $15 trillion in the global economy are at risk of automation. This is massive job obsolescence we are talking about. And then we have to combine that with what futurists and experts on aging and longevity are telling us. That the first people to live to be 150 years old have already been born. This is unfathomable. Are we going to have working lives that stretch for 100 years? Here's what this means. We are now in the business of having to prepare students for work that doesn't exist. It's already begun to happen. We saw it in 2014. LinkedIn's top 10 jobs were jobs that didn't really exist 5 years prior. These were things like social media intern, big data architect, UI UX designer, iOS or Android developer, cloud manager. How many jobs that don't exist yet will a person have during a 150-year lifespan? Do we really think that we can adequately prepare students with 2, 4, or 6 years of learning on the front end of a 100-year work life? As we try to make sense of this longer, more turbulent work life, we have to assume that learning is going to become more frequent and episodic. We can't think of education as a linear pathway or a linear trajectory. We're going to have to reimagine higher education as a variety of highways with lots and lots of on and off ramps. We give a lot of lip service to this idea of lifelong learning, but we do not offer our students many on or off ramps into education. In fact, if they decide to take one of those off ramps, we stigmatize them and we call them a college dropout. And then we punish them with student loan debt, leaving them worse off. We have to do better. We have to reimagine higher education as a learning ecosystem of the future in which working adults especially are going to move in and out of learning and work. It is going to be a learn-earn cycle that happens intermittently throughout life. We are going to have to upskill and retool ourselves to meet the needs of this emergent economy. More college, more graduate school is not the answer here. Our traditional system of higher education is ill-suited to facilitate these seamless, flexible pathways in and out of learning and work. Even some of our most interesting innovations, like online education or online competency-based education, or these sales boot camps, or medical device boot camps, or web development and data analytics boot camps, none of these are flexible enough yet to meet the needs of our working learners. We can't just simply extrapolate from where we are today as higher education 2018 to meet the needs of the workforce of 2030 or 2040. We are going to have to do better. We have to imagine that there will be better transparency in this market. Students will become savvier shoppers of higher education. There will be more verified reviews out there, more consumer insights about this nano degree program or that X series program or that degree program. Students will be asking each other, did that actually lead you to the outcome that you were hoping for? We have to begin saying these things out loud to begin prototyping the infrastructure, the systems, the architecture that is needed to lay the foundation for this learning ecosystem of the future. Post-secondary learning is going to have to engage with students differently than ever before. Enough talk about lifelong learning. We can stop admiring the problem. Time to build. Thank you.